That cake took me 3 days to bake and decorate. I rehearsed the rosettes for weeks because I wanted to make my grandson Tyler's 5th birthday unique, even though my hands aren't as stable as they used to be at 72. I insisted, even though my son David had stated that his wife Melanie wanted to place an order from that upscale bakery in downtown Rochester. "I've been making birthday cakes since before you could walk," I informed him. "Let me do this." Subscribe to the channel immediately before you continue. Where you are viewing, please leave a remark and a like. Your assistance is crucial. I carefully tucked the 2-tiered dinosaur cake into the back seat of my Buick the morning of the celebration. It was a really warm spring day in Rochester, and I was concerned about the buttercream icing. In order to complete the decorations, I had gotten up at 5 to give the finishing touches to the fondant dinosaurs that encircled the base. Since he was 3 years old, Tyler had been fascinated with paleontology, and I had studied each species to ensure their accuracy. As scheduled, I got to their suburban house an hour early. 2 years prior, David and Melanie had moved into one of those contemporary homes with plenty of windows and clean, simple furniture in the Cobbs Hill area. I never found it very cozy, but David took pride in it. At 43, he could afford the lifestyle Melanie demanded since he had done well at his business. "Mom, you're here." As I delicately pushed the cake through their front door, David gave me a brief embrace. He had the anxious expression of someone who is overburdened with party planning. Mel is still in the backyard getting set up. She's currently on the phone with the rental business since they sent the incorrect seats. "Where should I put the cake?" With my arms starting to hurt from carrying the weighty sculpture, I inquired. "Oh, in the kitchen, I guess, on the island." I walked from their open-concept living area into the immaculate kitchen, which had stainless steel equipment and marble counters. I saw a big white bakery box on the counter as I put the cake down. I said, "David, what's this?" With a hand raking through his thinning hair, my son emerged from the doorway. "Oh, that's, Mel ordered a backup just in case." In case my cake wasn't good enough, the pain of those words became a backup in my chest. "I see," I muttered. "It's not like that, Mom. She's simply—" "It's fine," I broke off, trying to grin. "You do realize that 2 cakes are better than 1? There is more to share." Melanie entered the garden through the glass sliding door before David could reply. With her honey blonde hair combed back in a flawless ponytail and her cream linen dress free of wrinkles, my daughter-in-law was still incredibly gorgeous at the age of 38. She was talking into her cell phone quickly. "No, these, whatever these are, were not the white chairs I expressly asked for. In an hour, the celebration will begin. This is totally inappropriate." She waved briefly when she saw me standing there, and then went on with her talk. "If you have to fetch them from another warehouse, it doesn't matter to me. My son's birthday is coming up, and everything must be flawless." I felt instantly out of place in my plain flowery dress and practical shoes as I stood clumsily by the island. That morning, I had devoted hours to preparing myself, meticulously applying makeup, and arranging my silver hair. I felt ancient and dowdy now, which was a feeling that frequently surfaced when Melanie was around. With a frustrated groan, she hung up the phone and faced me. "Barbara, you're early," I said. I wanted to help set up, and I needed to bring the cake in carefully. Her gaze shifted to the bakery box and then to my work. "Oh, you actually made it." "I obviously made it. I promised David that I would." "Right, yes, but—" She trailed off, then forced a bright smile. "Well, it's very homemade. That's sweet. We can put it on the dessert table with the cupcakes and cake pops." "And what about that one?" I asked, nodding toward the bakery box. "That's the main cake for the cutting ceremony and photos," she said matter-of-factly. "It's dinosaur-themed, too. The bakery did an amazing job. Wait till you see it. It has this incredible 3D T-Rex coming out of the top." I felt my throat tighten. I thought my cake was for the cutting ceremony. That's why I made it 2-tiered. Melanie's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Barbara, I appreciate the effort. I really do. But we invited Tyler's entire preschool class, plus our friends and their kids. This is an important event, and—" My cake isn't good enough for an important event. David stepped between us, ever the peacemaker. "Mom, your cake looks amazing. We'll use both, okay? Kids love cake." But which one will Tyler blow out the candles on? I asked, already knowing the answer. The silence that followed confirmed it. I'd spent weeks planning that cake, practicing techniques I hadn't used in years, standing despite the arthritis in my knees that made it painful to be upright for too long, and it wasn't good enough. I'm going to see if I can help with anything outside, I said, needing to escape before the tears threatening at the corners of my eyes could fall. The backyard had been transformed into a child's dream. A dinosaur-themed bounce house dominated one corner, while tables covered in prehistoric decorations filled another. A banner reading, "Happy 5th Birthday, Tyler," stretched across the back fence. Everything coordinated perfectly, from the napkins to the tablecloths. I found tasks to keep myself busy, arranging plates, setting out party favors, anything to feel useful. Guests would be arriving soon, and I needed to compose myself. The first to arrive were Melanie's parents, George and Diane Henderson. They lived in Pittsford, one of Rochester's wealthiest suburbs, and had never made much effort to hide their opinion that David had married into a better social circle. George was a retired surgeon, and Diane had never worked outside their home. They swept in, bearing an enormous gift wrapped in custom paper. "Barbara." Diane greeted me with air kisses near both cheeks. "How are you? Still in that little apartment downtown?" "Yes, I'm still there. It suits me fine." "Well, if you ever want recommendations for senior communities, I'm on the board of a lovely one near us. Very active lifestyle. I was saved from responding by the arrival of more guests." Soon the backyard was filled with the chaos of excited children and chatting adults. I stationed myself by the drinks table, pouring lemonade and making small talk, watching as Melanie expertly worked the crowd. She had a gift for making everyone feel special while simultaneously ensuring they knew just how much effort she'd put into every detail. Tyler arrived from his playdate with a neighbor, escorted by David. My grandson's face lit up when he saw the decorations, and he ran straight for the bounce house, his little legs pumping with excitement. "Grandma!" he shouted when he spotted me, changing course to barrel into my legs with a hug. "Did you see the dinosaurs? There's so many dinosaurs!" I knelt down, ignoring the protest from my knees. "I sure did, birthday boy. And I made you a special cake, too, with real dinosaurs on it. The ones we talked about. Exactly the ones we talked about. I even made an ankylosaurus, just like you asked." His face lit up with joy. "That's my favorite. Can I see it?" "Let's wait until cake time, okay? It's a surprise." He nodded solemnly, then was off again, drawn by the siren call of presents and playmates. I watched him go, my heart full. Whatever. Tension existed between Melanie and me. Tyler was worth it all. The party progressed with military precision, according to Melanie's schedule. There were dinosaur-themed games, a fossil dig in a sandbox specially installed for the occasion, and a professional face painter creating prehistoric creatures on small, eager faces. I helped where I could, but increasingly found myself pushed to the periphery as Melanie's mother took charge of the gift table, and her father entertained the parents with stories of his medical career. I felt like a spectator at my own grandson's birthday, an extra, rather than family. When it was finally time for cake, I followed the crowd inside. Melanie had set up the bakery creation on a special stand in the dining room. It was admittedly spectacular, a volcanic scene with realistic-looking dinosaurs and that promised T-Rex erupting from the top. My homemade effort had been placed on a side table with the other desserts, just as she'd said. "Everyone, gather around," Melanie called. "We're going to sing to the birthday boy." Tyler was lifted onto a chair by David, his little face glowing with excitement. But then he looked around in confusion. "Where's Grandma's cake?" he asked. "The one with the ankylosaurus?" A brief silence fell over the room. Melanie's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "Honey, we're using this special cake for the candles and pictures," she explained. "Grandma's cake is over there for everyone to enjoy after." Ty Forler's lower lip thrust out. "But I want Grandma's cake. She made the ankylosaurus for me." I saw the flicker of annoyance cross Melanie's perfect features before she smoothed it away. "Tyler, we already set everything up with this cake. We can cut Grandma's cake too, but let's blow out the candles on this one, okay?" "No," Tyler said, his voice rising with the beginnings of a tantrum. I want Grandma's cake. She made it special for me. David looked helplessly between his son and his wife. The other parents shifted uncomfortably, sensing the tension. It's okay, I said quickly, moving to retrieve my cake. We can use both, right? Why don't we put a candle on each? Barbara, Melanie said through gritted teeth. We already have this set up for the photos. But Tyler wants... We can't always give Tyler exactly what he wants, she snapped. That's called parenting. The room went silent. I felt the heat of embarrassment creep up my neck as every eye turned toward us. In that moment, I saw myself as they must see me, a meddling old woman disrupting a perfectly planned party. Tyler began to cry, and David quickly scooped him up, whispering something in his ear. Melanie turned to the guests with a practiced laugh. Well, I think someone's getting a little overtired from all the excitement. Let's sing happy birthday, and then everyone can enjoy both of these wonderful cakes. The crisis was smoothed over, with her social grace, but the damage was done. As everyone sang and Tyler reluctantly blew out the candles on the bakery cake, I stood in the corner, feeling utterly useless and out of place in my own family. I didn't know then that this was only the beginning of a conflict that would change everything between us. The drive back to my apartment after Tyler's birthday party felt longer than the usual 20 minutes. Rochester's streets were quiet in the early evening, the late spring sun still lingering above the horizon. I gripped the steering wheel of my Buick tightly, replaying the afternoon's events in my mind. Half of my cake remained uneaten on the dessert table when I left. I hadn't stayed to take it home. What would be the point? My apartment building came into view, an older but well-maintained complex near Highland Park. I'd moved here after selling the family home 3 years ago, following Harold's death. 47 years of marriage ended by a sudden heart attack while he was shoveling snow from our driveway. The apartment was smaller than I needed, but I'd chosen it for its proximity to David and Tyler. Back then, I thought I'd be spending most of my time with them anyway. I parked in my designated spot and sat for a moment, too drained to move. My phone buzzed with a text from David. Sorry about today, Mom. Tyler loved your cake. He's already asking when you'll visit next. At least my grandson still wanted me around. I texted back a brief response and headed inside, nodding to Mrs. Peterson from 3B, who was checking her mail in the lobby. Barbara, you look exhausted, she commented. Wasn't it your grandson's birthday today? Yes, it was quite an event. Those big parties can be overwhelming. My daughter does the same thing. Hires photographers, entertainers, the works, whatever. Happened to just having cake in the backyard with a few friends? I managed a smile. Times change, I suppose. They certainly do. Say, are you coming to book club on Wednesday? We're discussing that mystery novel. I'll be there, I promised, grateful for the reminder of my own life and friends, separate from the role of grandmother that seemed increasingly relegated to the sidelines. Upstairs, I kicked off my shoes and sank into my favorite armchair, the one Harold and I had purchased when we were first married. It was worn in all the right places, a comfortable reminder of a life well lived. I glanced at the side table where a stack of financial documents sat waiting for my attention. Bank statements, investment reports, and the monthly letter from my accountant. Harold had been meticulous about our finances. As a bank manager for over 30 years, he'd invested wisely and left me more than comfortable. My teacher's pension, combined with his retirement savings and investments, meant I had no financial worries, something I knew made me fortunate compared to many of my friends. I reached for the statements, thinking I might as well review them before bed, when my phone rang. David's name flashed on the screen. Hello, Mom. His voice sounded strained. I just wanted to check that you got home okay and to apologize properly for today. I'm fine, David, and you don't need to apologize. It was a lovely party, but the cake situation was nothing, I interrupted. Tyler had a wonderful time, and that's what matters. He was quiet for a moment. Mel feels bad about what happened. Does she? I couldn't keep the skepticism from my voice. She does, Mom. She's just particular about how she wants things. You know that. I did know that. Melanie had always been exact in her expectations from the wedding she'd planned down to the minute to the precise shade of gray they'd painted their living room walls. 3 samples had been tested before she found the right one. It's fine, David. Really. Actually, there was something else I wanted to talk to you about. He paused. It's a bit awkward. I felt a tightening in my chest. What is it? Well, you know that Mel left her job at the marketing firm when Tyler started preschool? Yes, she wanted to be more present for him. I remember. Right. And it's been great for Tyler having her home, but we've had to adjust to living on just my income, and with the new house and all the expenses, I suddenly understood where this was heading. David, are you having financial difficulties? You know I'd be happy to help. He exhaled audibly. That's just it, Mom. We're not in trouble exactly, but things are tighter than we'd like. Mel has expensive tastes, and we've gotten used to a certain lifestyle. What do you need? I asked directly. We've been thinking, since you're doing so well with Dad's investments and your pension, maybe you could help us out on a regular basis. Nothing major, just to ease the pressure a bit. I thought of Melanie's designer clothes, their luxury SUV, the lavish birthday party. What did you have in mind? Maybe you could add Mel as an authorized user on one of your credit cards, just for emergencies and things for Tyler. The request took me by surprise. An authorized user would mean Melanie could spend freely, and I would be responsible for the payments. It seemed an oddly open-ended form of financial support. I'd need to think about that, David. Maybe we could set up a monthly transfer instead. Something with clear boundaries. The credit card would just be easier, he pressed. That way, if Tyler needs something urgently, or there's a good opportunity for him, Mel wouldn't have to wait to ask you for the money. I wondered whose idea this really was. Let me sleep on it, okay? We can talk tomorrow. Of course, Mom, take your time. He paused. And thanks for understanding about today. Mel really does appreciate everything you do for Tyler. After we hung up, I sat in the growing darkness of my living room, thinking. Harold would have had strong opinions about this request. He believed in financial independence and had raised David with clear lessons about living within one's means. But Harold wasn't here, and I was lonely. If helping financially brought me closer to my grandson and made me more valuable to my son and daughter-in-law, perhaps it was worth considering. The next morning, I called my bank and arranged to add Melanie Henderson as an authorized user on my primary credit card, the one with the highest limit and best rewards. The customer service representative walked me through the process efficiently. The additional card will be mailed to your address within 5 to 7 business days, she explained. Would you like to set a separate credit limit for the authorized user? I hesitated. Setting a limit might send the message that I didn't trust Melanie. No, that won't be necessary. Very well, Mrs. Wilson. Is there anything else I can help you with today? No, thank you. That's all. I called David immediately after. It's done. Melanie's card should arrive next week. Really, Mom? Wow. Thank you, this is going to help us a lot. I'm happy to do it, I said, and in that moment I truly was. I want to be helpful, David. I want to be part of your lives. You are, Mom. This means a lot to us. The card arrived 5 days later. I called David to let him know I would drop it off that afternoon. Their house looked different in the mundane light of a Tuesday, less intimidating without the party decorations and crowds of guests. I parked in the driveway and noticed Melanie's Audi SUV was the only car present. David must have been at work. I rang the doorbell, smoothing down my cardigan nervously. After a moment, Melanie opened the door, her expression shifting from expectancy to polite acknowledgement when she saw me. Barbara, hi. David's not home yet. I know. I came to drop this off. I held up the envelope containing her new credit card. It came today. Her face brightened immediately. Oh, the card. That's wonderful. Come in, please. Please. The house was immaculate, as always, not a toy out of place, despite a 5-year-old living there. I followed Melanie to the kitchen, where she was in the midst of preparing what appeared to be a complex salad, vegetables arranged in precise rows, for chopping. Would you like some tea? She offered, gesturing to an electric kettle. That would be nice. Thank you. As she prepared the tea, I placed the envelope on the counter. The credit limit is quite generous. I thought it would be useful for Tyler's expenses and emergencies, as David mentioned. Melanie nodded, not looking up from the tea preparation. It will be. Thank you, Barbara. This is very kind of you. There was a formality to her gratitude that felt practiced rather than genuine, but I pushed the thought aside. This was a peace offering, a way to be useful to them. How is Tyler? I asked. Has he recovered from all the excitement of the party? He's good, at a play date right now. His friend's mother will drop him off in an hour. She set a mug of tea in front of me. Barbara, about the party. I hope you didn't feel that I was dismissing your effort with the cake. It was very thoughtful. The apology felt rehearsed, probably prompted by David. It's fine, Melanie, these things happen. She picked up the envelope, sliding out the credit card and examining it. This will make things so much easier for us. David's been working so hard, and with me staying home with Tyler, it's been an adjustment. I understand. Family comes first. She smiled, the first genuine expression I'd seen from her that day. Exactly. And now I can get Tyler that membership to the Children's Science Center he's been asking about. Did you know they have a whole paleontology program for kids his age? That sounds wonderful. He'd love that. And they have this amazing summer camp too, but it's quite expensive. Now we can consider it without stressing about the budget. I nodded, pleased that my contribution would directly benefit Tyler. I'd love to hear all about it when he goes. Of course. She tucked the card into her wallet. We really do appreciate this, Barbara. It makes me feel more secure knowing we have this backup. We chatted for a few more minutes about Tyler's activities and David's work before I made my excuses to leave. As Melanie walked me to the door, she gave me an unexpected hug. This means more than you know, she said. You're helping us give Tyler the best possible childhood. Driving home, I felt lighter than I had in days. Maybe this financial arrangement would bridge the gap between us, creating a bond where there had previously been only polite tolerance. Maybe Melanie would finally see me as valuable, as someone who contributed meaningfully to their family. The first credit card statement arrived 4 weeks later. I opened it over my morning coffee, curious to see how Melanie had been using the card. The total made me blink in surprise. $6,283.47. I scanned the itemized charges. There was indeed a membership to the Rochester Children's Science Center for $250, but there was also a $200 charge from Nordstrom, $870 from a high-end furniture store, $430 at a spa in Pittsford, and numerous restaurant charges ranging from $60 to $200. Only about a quarter of the expenses seemed directly related to Tyler. The rest appeared to be Melanie's personal shopping and entertainment. I recalled David's words, things for Tyler, and emergencies, and wondered if their definition of emergency differed significantly from mine. I picked up my phone to call David, then set it down again. Confronting them about the charges might create tension just when we seemed to be developing a better relationship. The last few weeks had seen more invitations to visit, more FaceTime calls with Tyler. Just yesterday, Melanie had texted me photos of Tyler at the Science Center, his face alight with wonder as he examined fossil replicas. I could afford the charges. The amount, while substantial, wouldn't impact my financial security. Was it worth risking our fragile peace over money? I decided to pay the bill without comment and see what happened next month. Perhaps this was just an initial splurge, and the expenses would normalize over time. Or perhaps I needed to have a gentle conversation with David about expectations. Either way, I wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt. After all, what was money compared to family? I had plenty, and they had given me something far more valuable, a place in their lives. If this was the price of admission, I was willing to pay it for now. Summer in Rochester gave way to fall, bringing cooler temperatures and the vibrant colors of changing leaves. 3 months had passed since I'd added Melanie to my credit card, and I'd settled into a new routine with my family. I was invited for Sunday dinners twice a month, picked Tyler up from preschool every Wednesday, and occasionally joined them for outings to parks or museums. On the surface, things seemed better. Melanie was more welcoming, often texting me photos of Tyler or calling to chat about his latest achievements. David seemed relieved by the improved relationship between his mother and wife, and Tyler, sweet Tyler, was always delighted to see his grandma. But beneath this pleasant veneer, a growing unease had taken root in my mind. The credit card statements continued to show substantial charges each month. $5,147.92, then $7,329.15, and most recently $8,456.23. The expenses were increasingly difficult to justify as necessities for Tyler or emergencies. Designer clothing, high-end electronics, expensive restaurants, and even a weekend spa retreat that I knew Tyler hadn't attended. I'd paid each bill without comment, torn between my desire to maintain our newfound closeness and my discomfort with what felt increasingly like exploitation. Harold would have put a stop to it immediately. I could almost hear his voice. "Barbara, you're being taken advantage of. This isn't helping. It's enabling." But Harold wasn't here, and I feared that addressing the issue would return us to the cold politeness of before, or worse. It was a crisp October afternoon when things finally came to a head. I was sitting at my kitchen table reviewing the latest credit card statement when my phone rang. It was David. "Mom, are you busy right now? I was hoping to stop by." Something in his tone made me wary. "Of course not. Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine. I just wanted to talk to you about something. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I put on a pot of coffee and tidied the already neat apartment, my mind racing with possibilities. Had he seen the credit card statements? Was he coming to discuss Melanie's spending? Or was it something else entirely? The doorbell rang precisely. 19 minutes later. David had always been punctual, even as a child. I opened the door to find him standing there in his work clothes, looking tired but managing a smile. "Hi, Mom. Thanks for seeing me on short notice." "Don't be silly. You never need notice to visit your mother." I ushered him in. "Coffee's ready, or I have that herbal tea you like." "Coffee would be great, thanks." We settled in my small living room, David perching on the edge of the sofa while I took my usual armchair. He cupped the mug in both hands, staring into the dark liquid as if searching for words. "Is everything all right with Tyler?" I prompted when the silence stretched too long. "Tyler's great, getting so smart. His teacher says he's reading at almost a second grade level already." "That's wonderful. He's always been bright." David nodded, then took a deep breath. "Mom, I wanted to talk to you about the credit card." My heart sank, but I kept my expression neutral. "What about it?" "First, I want you to know how much we appreciate your generosity. It's made a huge difference for us these past few months." "I'm glad to help, David. You know that." He shifted uncomfortably. "The thing is, Mel and I were talking, and we realized that having the card linked to your account might make you feel, well, like you're too involved in our finances, like you're watching over our shoulders." This was not what I had expected. "I haven't said anything about the charges, David." "Exactly. And that's so respectful of you, but we thought it might be better for everyone if we had a cleaner arrangement." He leaned forward. "What if, instead of the credit card, you just transferred a fixed amount each month? Say $10,000. That way, you wouldn't have to see all the individual purchases, and we'd have the freedom to use the money as needed for our family." I blinked, momentarily speechless. $10,000 a month was substantially more than Melanie had been spending on the card, and the suggestion that I was somehow invading their privacy by seeing the charges on my own credit card statement was absurd. "David," I said carefully, "are you asking me to give you $10,000 every month indefinitely?" He winced slightly at my directness. "When you put it that way, it sounds bad. It's not like that. Think of it as an investment in Tyler's future and our family's well-being. With this kind of support, Mel could stay home with Tyler until he's in school full-time, maybe even longer." The credit card was supposed to be for Tyler's needs and emergencies, I reminded him, not as a replacement for Melanie's income. A flash of annoyance crossed his face. "Mom, everything we do is for Tyler, and honestly, the card arrangement is becoming awkward. Mel feels like she has to justify every purchase to you." "She hasn't justified anything to me. I haven't questioned a single charge. But she knows you see them all." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture reminiscent of his father. "Look, this would just be cleaner. A monthly transfer, no strings attached, no itemized statements for you to worry about. I took a sip of my coffee, using the moment to gather my thoughts. I need to think about this, David. It's a significant change from what we agreed to. Disappointment flickered across his face. Of course. Take your time. He checked his watch. I should get going. I told Mel I'd pick up Tyler from his playdate on my way home. As I walked him to the door, he turned and gave me a quick hug. Thanks for considering it, Mom, and for everything you do for us. After he left, I sat back in my armchair, feeling a heaviness settle over me. The conversation had confirmed my worst fears. What had started as a gesture of goodwill had morphed into an expectation, an entitlement, and now they wanted more with less accountability. I reached for the phone, then hesitated. Who could I talk to about this? My closest friend, Eleanor, had moved to Florida 2 years ago to be near her own grandchildren. We still spoke regularly, but she'd never been fond of Melanie and would likely tell me exactly what I already knew. That I was being used. Instead, I called my financial advisor, Martin, who had worked with Harold for years and had continued to manage my investments after his death. Barbara, good to hear from you. He greeted me warmly. What can I do for you today? I have a hypothetical question, Martin. If I were to give my son and his wife $10,000 every month, how would that impact my financial situation long term? There was a pause. That's $120,000 a year, Barbara. Not an insignificant sum, even with your portfolio. May I ask what prompted this question? I explained the situation briefly, trying to keep my emotions out of it. Martin listened without interrupting, then sighed. Financially speaking, you could sustain that level of gifting for several years without seriously depleting your principal, especially if the markets perform well. But Barbara, I have to say, this doesn't sound like a healthy arrangement. There's no end date, no specific purpose. It's just an open-ended drain on your resources. I know, I admitted, but they're my family, Martin. What am I supposed to do? Have you considered setting up a trust for Tyler instead? You could contribute to his education fund or establish something that would benefit him directly when he's older. I already have a college fund for him. Then perhaps it's time for some boundaries. Harold was very clear about wanting you to be financially secure for the rest of your life. He wouldn't want you to feel pressured like this. After we hung up, I sat with my thoughts as evening fell, casting long shadows across my living room. Martin was right, of course. This wasn't what Harold would have wanted for me or for David. He'd raised our son to be self-sufficient, to work hard for what he wanted. Somewhere along the way, with Melanie's influence, those values seemed to have shifted. The next day, I called David. I've thought about your proposal, I said when he answered. Great. What did you decide? I'm not comfortable with a monthly transfer of that size, David, but I have another suggestion. I'd like to help with specific expenses for Tyler, his education, activities, medical needs. If you send me the details of those costs, I'll cover them directly. The silence that followed was telling. Mom, that's not really what we had in mind. It would be so much simpler to just have a regular transfer. I understand that, but this is what I'm comfortable with. I paused, then added, I'll also need the credit card back. I think it's best if we discontinue that arrangement. What? His voice rose in surprise. Mom, we've been counting on that. Mel has already planned Tyler's activities for the next few months, assuming we'd have that resource. I'm still happy to pay for Tyler's activities. Just send me the information, and I'll take care of it. I don't understand where this is coming from. Everything was working fine. Was it, David? The card was meant for emergencies and necessities for Tyler. The charges have gone well beyond that. So you have been judging us. His tone hardened. I knew it. Mel said you were probably scrutinizing every purchase and thinking the worst of her. That's not true. I'm just trying to establish some reasonable boundaries. Boundaries? He sounded incredulous. Mom, we're family. This isn't some business transaction. We've been getting closer these past few months. Tyler loves seeing you more often. Do you want to jeopardize that? The implied threat wasn't subtle. My stomach clenched. Are you saying that my relationship with Tyler is contingent on my financial support? Of course not. He backpedaled quickly. I'm just saying things have been good. Why change what's working? Because it's not working for me, David. I want to be part of your lives because you want me there, not because of what I can provide financially. He was quiet for a moment. I need to talk to Mel about this. She's not going to be happy. I understand. Let me know when you'd like to discuss Tyler's expenses. I'm still committed to helping with those. After we hung up, I felt simultaneously relieved and terrified. I'd finally stood my ground. But at what cost? Would this be the end of the closer relationship I'd been enjoying with my grandson and son? The answer came sooner than I expected. That evening, my doorbell rang just after 7. When I opened it, I found Melanie standing there, her expression tight with barely contained anger. "We need to talk," she said, brushing past me into the apartment without waiting for an invitation. Closed the door slowly, steeling myself for the confrontation to come. Whatever happened next would determine the future of my relationship with my family, and I knew it wouldn't be easy. Melanie paced my small living room like a caged animal, her heels clicking sharply against the hardwood floor. Her appearance was as polished as ever. A cream cashmere sweater, dark tailored pants, and a designer handbag that probably cost more than my monthly rent. But her perfectly made-up face couldn't hide the fury in her eyes. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" she demanded, whirling to face me. We had arrangements in place, commitments based on the understanding that we had access to that card. I remained standing, unwilling to sink into my armchair and give her the psychological advantage of looming over me. I was clear from the beginning about what the card was for: Melanie, Tyler's needs and emergencies. She let out a sharp laugh. And that's exactly what it's been used for. A weekend at the Mirbeau Spa was for Tyler. Her eyes narrowed. My mental health directly impacts my ability to be a good mother to Tyler. Self-care is part of responsible parenting. It was such a practiced response, delivered with such conviction, that I almost questioned my own judgment for a moment. Almost. And the designer clothing, the expensive restaurants when Tyler wasn't even present? I represent this family in the community, Barbara. The school events, the neighborhood functions, these are all for Tyler's benefit. Do you think those Pittsford mothers would arrange playdates with their children if I showed up looking like... She stopped abruptly, but her gaze flicked dismissively over my simple slacks and cardigan. The implication hung in the air between us. Like me. If she showed up looking like me. "I see," I said quietly. "And the $10,000 a month David asked for, that would also be for Tyler's benefit?" "Of course it would. Everything we do is for our son. We're trying to give him the best possible life, the kind of advantages that will set him up for success." She crossed her arms. "I didn't expect you, of all people, to be so selfish." "Selfish?" The accusation stung. "Yes, selfish. You're sitting on all that money Harold left you, money that you'll never spend in your lifetime. Meanwhile, your only grandchild could be benefiting from it now, when it matters for his development. But you'd rather hoard it all away." I took a steadying breath. "I've already established a substantial college fund for Tyler. I've offered to pay directly for his activities and needs. That's hardly hoarding. But you need to control everything, don't you? To know every detail, to have us come begging for each expense." She shook her head in disgust. "Do you know how humiliating that is? To have to ask my mother-in-law for permission to provide for my child? That's not what I'm asking for, Melanie. Isn't it? You want itemized lists, receipts, justifications? Like we're applying for a grant from the Barbara Wilson Foundation." She paced again, her movements sharp and agitated. "We're family, or at least I thought we were." The emotional manipulation was so transparent that I might have laughed if the situation weren't so painful. Family doesn't take advantage of each other, Melanie. She stopped pacing and stared at me, her expression shifting from anger to something colder. "Is that what you think we're doing? Taking advantage of you?" "The evidence suggests that, yes." "The evidence?" She laughed bitterly. "You sound like you're building a case against us. Is that how you see your relationship with your son? As some kind of transaction where you need to protect yourself? That's not fair, and you know it. What I know is that we've bent over backwards to include you in our lives these past few months. Do you think it's easy for me, having my mother-in-law, scrutinizing my parenting, my housekeeping, my entire life? But I did it for David, for Tyler, And yes, for you too, because I know how lonely you've been since Harold died. The mention of my late husband's name in this context felt like a violation. Don't bring Harold into this. Why not? He's the elephant in the room, isn't he? The perfect husband, the perfect father, the financial genius who left you set for by life. Do you think he'd approve of how you're treating us right now? Harold believed in hard work and living within your means, I said firmly. He would be appalled by what you're asking of me. Melanie's expression hardened. You have no idea what I'm asking of you because you've never bothered to really know me. You've judged me from day one, decided I wasn't good enough for your precious son. That's not true. I've tried. No, you haven't. She cut me off. You've tolerated me at best. Even at our wedding, you made that comment about David marrying up socially, as if I was some gold digger who trapped your son for his middling accountant's salary. I remembered the comment she was referring to, a clumsy attempt at humor during my toast that had fallen flat. I'd regretted it immediately, but I had no idea she'd carried that resentment for all these years. I'm sorry if I hurt you with that comment, Melanie. It was thoughtless. It was revealing, she countered. And nothing has changed. You still see me as someone trying to take advantage of your family instead of as a member of it. There was a kernel of truth in her words that made me uncomfortable. Had I been prejudiced against her from the beginning? Had I contributed to the tension between us over the years? But then I remembered the credit card statements, the escalating demands, the implied threat that my access to Tyler depended on my financial generosity. No, this wasn't about old misunderstandings or personality clashes. This was about boundaries being crossed. I want to have a good relationship with you and David, I said carefully. But it has to be based on mutual respect, not financial dependence. Respect? She picked up her handbag from where she'd set it on my coffee table. Like the respect you showed when you decided unilaterally to cancel the card without even discussing it with us first? When you undermined arrangements we'd already made for Tyler based on that resource? I offered an alternative. An alternative that puts you in complete control, that requires us to come to you hat in hand for every expense. She shook her head. That's not respect, Barbara. That's a power play. And what would you call demanding $10,000 a month with no accountability? I'd call it trust, family trust. She moved toward the door. But clearly, that's something you're incapable of. I followed her. Melanie, please, let's not leave it like this. There must be a middle ground we can find. She turned, her hand on the doorknob. You know what's ironic? For all your talk about Tyler's best interests, you're the one who's going to hurt him the most. He loves his grandma. He asks about you all the time. How am I supposed to explain to a 5-year-old that his grandmother has decided to pull back from our lives? I'm not pulling back from Tyler's life. I want to be involved more than anything. Do you? Because from where I'm standing, you just blew up the arrangement that was making that possible. Her voice took on a clinical coldness that was more frightening than her earlier anger. You have a choice to make, Barbara. You can trust us to use your financial support in the best way for our family, without strings and supervision. Or you can return to seeing Tyler on holidays and special occasions like before. The threat was explicit now. You're using my grandson as leverage. I'm being realistic about the consequences of your actions. If you don't trust us, if you insist on treating us like children who need monitoring, then our relationship can't continue as it has been. It's that simple. She opened the door. Talk to David once you've made your decision. He's devastated by this. You know, he thought you were finally accepting me as part of the family. With that parting shot, she was gone, leaving behind only the lingering scent of her expensive perfume and the devastating weight of her ultimatum. I sank into my armchair, emotionally drained. The confrontation had been every bit as awful as I'd feared, but in ways I hadn't anticipated. Melanie's accusations had struck uncomfortably close to home in places, making me question my own motivations and biases. Had I really never given her a fair chance? Was I using financial control as a substitute for the influence I'd lost when David married? But then there were the facts. The extravagant spending, the ever-increasing demands, the explicit threat to restrict access to my grandson if I didn't comply with their financial expectations. That wasn't about old misunderstandings or personality conflicts. That was manipulation, pure and simple. My phone rang, startling me from my thoughts. David's name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail, not ready to face another confrontation so soon. A minute later, a text message appeared. "Mom, please call me. We need to talk about this." I turned off my phone and walked to the window, looking out at the autumn evening settling over Rochester. The maple tree outside my building was at the peak of its color change, its leaves a brilliant crimson in the fading light. Soon those leaves would fall and winter would come. The seasons changed, predictable in their cycle. But some changes, once made, couldn't be undone. Whatever I decided now would alter my relationship with my son and grandson permanently. If I stood my ground, I risked losing the precious time with Tyler that had become the highlight of my weeks. If I gave in, I would be establishing a precedent of emotional and financial manipulation that would shape our family dynamics for years to come. Harold would have known what to do. He'd always been better at handling difficult conversations, at finding the balance between kindness and firmness. But Harold wasn't here. This decision was mine alone to make. I turned back to my silent phone, knowing that sooner or later I would have to answer David's call. But first, I needed to be absolutely clear about where my boundaries lay and what I was willing to sacrifice to maintain them. Because one thing was certain, whatever choice I made, there would be a price to pay. Before continuing, subscribe to the channel now. Leave a like and comment where you're watching from. Your support is very important. I didn't sleep that night. The conversation with Melanie replayed in my mind on an endless loop, each iteration bringing new doubts, new anger, new grief. By the time dawn broke over Rochester, painting my bedroom walls with pale golden light, I'd made my decision. I reached for my phone and turned it back on. 5 missed calls from David, along with a series of increasingly urgent text messages. "Mom, please call me. We need to talk about this." "Mel told me what happened. I think there's been a misunderstanding." "Mom, I'm worried about you. Please respond." "If I don't hear from you by morning, I'm coming over." The last message had been sent at 11:42 p.m. It was now 6:15 a.m. I composed a brief response. "I'm fine. No need to come over. I'll call you later today." His reply came almost immediately. "Thank God, I was about to drive over. Can we talk now?" "Not yet," I typed. "I need some time. I'll call you this afternoon." I set the phone aside and went through my morning routine mechanically: shower, coffee, toast that I barely tasted. At 9 a.m., I called my bank and requested to speak with someone about my accounts. "Good morning, Mrs. Wilson," the representative greeted me. "How can I help you today?" "I need to cancel a credit card and issue a new one with a different number." "I'd be happy to help with that. May I ask the reason for the cancellation? Are you experiencing fraud or unauthorized charges?" I hesitated. Were they unauthorized? Technically, I had authorized Melanie as a user, but the way the card had been used certainly hadn't been what I agreed to. "The card has been compromised," I said finally. "I need it canceled immediately, and a new one issued." "Of course, Mrs. Wilson, I can take care of that right away. The current card ending in 4382 will be deactivated immediately, and a new card will be sent to your home address within 5 to 7 business days." "Thank you. And please make sure there are no authorized users on the new card." "Noted. The new card will have only you as the account holder. Is there anything else I can help you with today?" "Yes, actually. I'd like to set up a new account, a custodial account for my grandson, Tyler Henderson." By the time I finished at the bank, it was nearly 11 a.m. I had one more call to make before contacting David. I dialed Eleanor in Florida. "Barbara," her warm voice brought immediate comfort. "What a lovely surprise. I was just thinking about you yesterday." "Hello, Eleanor. Do you have some time to talk? I'm afraid I need some advice." "Of course, dear. What's happening?" I explained the situation from the beginning: the credit card, the escalating demands, Melanie's ultimatum. Eleanor listened without interrupting, a skill she'd developed during her 40 years as a high school guidance counselor. "Oh, Barbara," she sighed when I finished. "What a terrible position to be put in. I'm so sorry." "I've made my decision," I told her. I'm just not sure if I'm doing the right thing. Tell me what you've decided. I've canceled the card. I've also set up a custodial account for Tyler that only I can manage until he's 18. I'm going to tell David that I won't be giving them the monthly allowance they want, but I'll contribute generously to Tyler's future through this account. And if they follow through on their threat to limit your access to Tyler? The question sent a fresh wave of pain through me. Then I'll have to accept that. I can't allow myself to be emotionally blackmailed, Eleanor. If I give in now, where does it end? I think you're making the right choice, she said gently. It's going to be painful, but you're setting a boundary that needs to be set. But what if I never see Tyler? What if they turn him against me? He's 5 now, right? In time, he'll be old enough to seek you out on his own if they try to keep him from you. And children are perceptive. He'll know who truly loves him without conditions. We talked for another half hour, her steady wisdom helping to reinforce my resolve. After we hung up, I took a deep breath and dialed David's number. He answered on the first ring. Mom, finally, I've been so worried. I'm sorry for not calling sooner. I needed time to think. Mel told me about your conversation last night. Mom, she was upset. She probably didn't express herself well. I think she expressed herself perfectly clearly, David. He sighed. Look, we got off on the wrong foot with this whole thing. Why don't you come over for dinner tonight? We can talk it through calmly, all 3 of us. I don't think that's a good idea. I'd prefer to have this conversation with just you. Mom! I've made my decision, David. I've canceled the credit card and will be getting a new one without Melanie as an authorized user. The silence that followed was heavy. When he spoke again, his voice had hardened. So, that's it? You didn't even want to discuss it with me first? What's there to discuss? The card was being misused, and when I tried to establish reasonable boundaries, I was essentially told that my relationship with my grandson was contingent on my financial support. That's not what Mel meant. It's exactly what she meant, David. She made it very clear that if I didn't provide the money without strings attached, as she put it, I would be back to seeing Tyler only on holidays and special occasions. He didn't deny it, which told me everything I needed to know. Mom, try to see it from our perspective. We've built a life based on certain expectations. Tyler has activities, opportunities we've planned for him. We need stability. And I need to not be exploited by my own family. The words came out sharper than I intended, but I couldn't take them back. Exploited? He sounded genuinely shocked. Is that how you see our relationship? As exploitation? What would you call spending thousands of dollars on personal luxuries using my credit card, then demanding even more money when I question it? I'd call it family helping family, which is what I thought we were. Family doesn't use a child as emotional leverage, David. Family doesn't threaten to withhold love if financial demands aren't met. He was quiet for a moment. What do you want from us, Mom? Just tell me. I want a relationship that isn't based on money. I want to be valued for who I am, not what I can provide. I took a deep breath. I've set up a custodial account for Tyler. I'll be contributing to it regularly, but the funds will only be available to him when he's 18, for college or whatever path he chooses. So you're still willing to give money, just not in a way that helps us now. The bitterness in his voice was palpable. I'm willing to support Tyler's future and his specific needs. I've told you I'll pay directly for his activities, his education expenses, his medical needs, anything that's genuinely for him. But you don't trust us to make those decisions. You need to control everything. It was the same accusation Melanie had made. It's not about control, David. It's about boundaries. Well, your boundaries are going to cost you your relationship with your grandson. Is that worth it to you? The threat coming from my son this time hurt even more than when Melanie had made it. Are you really willing to keep Tyler from seeing me because I won't give you unrestricted access to my money? That's not... He stopped, then tried again. It's not that simple. It is that simple. Either my relationship with Tyler is conditional on my financial support, or it isn't. Mom, please, let's not do this over the phone. Come over tonight. Meet with us. We can work something out. I'm not coming over, David. I need you to hear me clearly. I will not be giving you and Melanie monthly allowances or unlimited access to my credit card. I will support Tyler directly in ways that benefit him. That's my final decision. Then I don't know what to tell you. His voice had gone cold. Mel's not going to accept this. She already feels like you've never respected her, never welcomed her into the family. This is just confirmation in her mind. That's between Melanie and me. No, Mom, it's not. It's between all of us. We're a package deal. Me, Mel, and Tyler. You don't get to cherry pick which family members you want to deal with. The unfairness of this statement took my breath away. I've never tried to exclude Melanie. I've made countless efforts over the years to build a relationship with her. Well, from her perspective, those efforts have always come with judgment attached. I thought of the birthday party, the cake incident, all the small slights and tensions over the years. Maybe there was some truth to that, but it didn't justify what they were doing now. I'm sorry if that's how she feels, but my decision stands. He sighed heavily. Then I guess we have nothing more to talk about. I'll let you know about Tyler's next school event, but beyond that, I think we all need some space. The euphemism wasn't lost on me. Space. What he really meant was separation, distance, a pulling away of my grandson from my life. I love you, David, and I love Tyler more than you can imagine. I hope you'll reconsider using him as a pawn in this situation. That's not... He stopped. I have to go. Goodbye, Mom. The line went dead. I sat with the phone in my hand, feeling a strange mixture of devastation and relief. The worst had happened. They were going to restrict my access to Tyler, but I had stood my ground, maintained my dignity, refused to be manipulated or exploited. Was it worth it? I didn't know. Only time would tell. I placed the phone on the table and walked to my small desk, where I kept a photo album of Tyler from birth to his recent birthday. I turned the pages slowly, watching him grow from a red-faced newborn to a gap-toothed 5-year-old with curious eyes and his father's smile. "I'm sorry, sweetheart," I whispered to his image. "Grandma had to make a hard choice. I hope someday you'll understand." Outside, the autumn wind picked up, sending a swirl of crimson maple leaves past my window. Change was coming, whether I was ready for it or not. November in Rochester brought early snow, dusting the city in white and turning Highland Park into a winter wonderland. 3 weeks had passed since my confrontation with David. 3 weeks of silence, broken only by a curt text message informing me that Tyler's school Thanksgiving pageant was canceled due to a flu outbreak. No invitation to Thanksgiving dinner had followed. I assumed they would be spending it with Melanie's parents in their Pittsford home, as they had the previous year. I made plans with my book club friends, a potluck at Eleanor's sister's house in Irondequoit. It wouldn't be the family Thanksgiving I longed for, but it was better than sitting alone in my apartment with a frozen dinner and memories. The Wednesday before Thanksgiving, I was putting the finishing touches on the sweet potato casserole I'd promised to bring when my phone rang. I expected it to be Margaret from book club, confirming the time for tomorrow. Instead, Tyler's name flashed on the screen. Tyler didn't have his own phone, of course. This was the iPad that David and Melanie had set up with limited contacts for emergencies or supervised calls to grandparents. My heart raced as I answered. "Hello, Tyler. Tyler." "Grandma!" His high-pitched voice sent a wave of emotion through me, so powerful I had to grip the counter for support. Guess what? I lost my tooth, the one that was wiggly when I showed you last time. Last time. Our Wednesday afternoon together nearly a month ago before everything fell apart. My last time seeing him. "That's wonderful, sweetheart. Did the tooth fairy come?" "Uh-huh. She brought me $5. Daddy said that's because it was my first tooth. The next ones might be only $1. "Well, that's very generous of the tooth fairy. Are you excited for Thanksgiving tomorrow?" "Yeah. Daddy's frying a turkey in the backyard. He got a special fryer thing, and I'm helping Mommy make pumpkin pie later." So, they weren't going to Melanie's parents after all. The knowledge sent a fresh stab of pain through me. They were having a family Thanksgiving at home, and I wasn't invited. "That sounds delicious. I'm sure you'll be a great helper. Mommy says I'm the best at stirring." There was a pause, then his voice dropped to a stage whisper. Grandma, are you mad at us? Daddy said you need space right now, but I don't know what that means. My throat tightened. No, sweetheart, I'm not mad at you. Not at all. I miss you. Very much. I miss you too. When are you coming over again? You haven't picked me up from school in forever. How could I explain this to a 5-year-old? That his parents were using him as leverage in a financial dispute? That his grandmother had chosen principle over access to him? I'm not sure, Tyler. Your dad and I are working some things out, but I want you to know that I love you very, very much. Nothing will ever change that. Okay. He sounded uncertain. Can I show you something? I'll turn on the video. Before I could respond, the call switched to FaceTime. Tyler's face appeared, gap-toothed smile and all. His dark hair was tousled as if he'd been playing. He was in his bedroom. I recognized the dinosaur wallpaper behind him. See my tooth? He pointed to the empty space in his lower jaw. It came out when I was eating an apple. I see it. What a big moment. You're growing up so fast. He nodded solemnly. I'm practically a grown-up now, that's what Daddy says. Well, not quite yet. I smiled. You've still got plenty of time to be a kid. Grandma, for Christmas, can I get... Tyler? Melanie's voice came from somewhere off-screen. Who are you talking to? His eyes widened slightly. It's Grandma. I'm showing her my tooth. There was a moment of silence. Then footsteps approached. Melanie's face appeared in the frame, her expression carefully neutral. Tyler, you know you're supposed to ask before making calls. But it's just Grandma. His voice held confusion. Even so, we have rules about the iPad. She looked directly at the camera now, acknowledging me for the first time. Barbara, I didn't realize Tyler was calling you. He was just showing me his tooth. It's fine. Tyler, go help Daddy bring in the groceries from the car. I need to talk to Grandma for a minute. Now, please. He sighed dramatically but complied. Bye, Grandma. I love you. I love you too, sweetheart, I called as he disappeared from view. Once he was gone, Melanie's expression hardened. I'd appreciate it if you didn't encourage him to call without permission. I didn't encourage anything, Melanie. He called me. Well, he shouldn't have. We've been trying to give him space from this situation. Space? He's 5 years old. He has no idea there is a situation. He just misses his grandmother. She sighed, running a hand through her perfect hair. Look, Barbara, I know you think I'm the villain here, the gold digger who's keeping your grandson from you. But this isn't simple. Then explain it to me. Explain how it's okay to use a child as leverage in a financial dispute. That's not... She stopped, glancing over her shoulder to ensure Tyler wasn't within earshot. That's not what's happening. David is deeply hurt by your lack of trust in us. He feels like you've never fully accepted me as part of the family, and this financial issue just confirmed it for him. So this is punishment? Keeping Tyler from me because David's feelings are hurt? It's not punishment. It's protection. David doesn't want Tyler exposed to the tension right now. There wouldn't be tension if I were allowed to see my grandson. She shook her head. You still don't get it. This isn't just about money. It's about respect, about being treated like capable adults rather than irresponsible children who need supervision. Respect goes both ways, Melanie. I didn't feel very respected when you demanded $10,000 a month with no accountability. A flash of something, guilt, annoyance, crossed her face. Perhaps that was excessive, but the principle remains. Either you trust us to make decisions for our family, or you don't. I was tired of going in circles. What does this mean for Thanksgiving? For Christmas? Am I expected to just miss all these moments in Tyler's life because we have a disagreement? She hesitated. David hasn't decided about Christmas yet. As for Thanksgiving, we've already made plans. Without me, went the unspoken end of that sentence. I see. I kept my voice steady despite the ache in my chest. Will you at least allow me to give Tyler a Christmas gift? Of course, you can drop it off or mail it. Her tone suggested she was being incredibly generous with this concession. A commotion in the background caught her attention, the sound of David and Tyler returning with groceries. I have to go, Please don't call Tyler directly. If you want to speak with him, contact David or me first. Melanie, wait. But she had already ended the call. I set the phone down on the counter, my hands shaking. The brief connection with Tyler had been both a blessing and a curse. Wonderful to see his face, hear his voice, know that he still loved and missed me. But the casual cruelty of Melanie's dismissal, the reality that I was now required to request permission to speak to my own grandson, was almost too much to bear. The sweet potato casserole sat forgotten on the counter, cooling as tears slid down my cheeks. For the first time since this ordeal began, I questioned my decision. Was standing on principle worth this pain? Worth missing Thanksgiving, possibly Christmas? Worth losing these precious years of Tyler's childhood that I could never get back? I picked up my phone, my finger hovering over David's contact information. Maybe it wasn't too late. Maybe I could swallow my pride, agree to their terms, find some way to compromise that would allow me back into their lives. But then I remembered Melanie's cold eyes when she delivered her ultimatum, the way David had so easily threatened to keep Tyler from me if I didn't comply with their financial demands. If I gave in now, what would the next demand be? Where would it end? I put the phone down without making the call. Instead, I covered the casserole and placed it in the refrigerator. Tomorrow would be Thanksgiving, my first without family in decades. I would put on a brave face for my friends, share stories and laughter, and pretend that my heart wasn't breaking. That evening, I sat at my desk and wrote a letter to Tyler, explaining in simple terms how much I loved him, how none of the grown-up problems were his fault, and how I would always be his grandma, no matter what. I didn't know if he would ever read it, if David and Melanie would give it to him, but I needed to write it nonetheless. As I sealed the envelope, my phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. I opened it cautiously. Barbara, this is George Henderson, Melanie's father. I believe we need to talk. Can you meet me tomorrow morning at 9 at South at Highland Park Diner? It's about David and Melanie, and I think you'll want to hear what I have to say. I stared at the message in disbelief. Melanie's father, the retired surgeon who had always treated me with cordial indifference at best. What could he possibly want to discuss with me, especially on Thanksgiving morning? Despite my misgivings, I found myself typing a response. I'll be there. Whatever George Henderson wanted to tell me, it had to be significant for him to reach out like this. For better or worse, I was about to add another layer of complexity to an already painful situation. The Highland Park Diner was nearly empty on Thanksgiving morning. I spotted George Henderson immediately, sitting in a corner booth, impeccably, dressed as always. His silver hair was perfectly combed, his expression serious as he sipped black coffee. Thank you for coming, Barbara, he said as I slid into the booth. I'll get straight to the point. I know about the credit card situation. I blinked in surprise. Melanie told you? No, I discovered it when I was helping them refinance their mortgage last month. They're drowning in debt, Barbara. Massive credit card balances, personal loans, a second mortgage they didn't tell you about. I had no idea it was that bad. George nodded grimly. Melanie has always lived beyond her means. When she married David, I hoped he would be a stabilizing influence. Instead, she's dragged him into her financial chaos. Why are you telling me this? Because they're using you and it's wrong. I was astonished at how straightforward he was. I've already helped them out twice with Diane. They turned to you after we declined a third time. Have you spoken to them about this? I made an effort. They don't pay attention. He bent over. This is what I'm suggesting. A financial counselor who specializes in helping families with spending issues is someone I have scheduled. Diane and I will assist with their urgent debts if they agree to cooperate with her. However, this time they require repercussions. What do you need from me? Remain firm. Don't allow them complete access to your funds. Additionally, if they disconnect you from Tyler. He crossed the table and slid a business card. My lawyer. I'll support you if you want to request visiting rights for grandparents. I accepted the card with a shaking hand. You'd do that? Grandmother is deserved by Tyler. Additionally, kids must understand that emotional blackmail is not acceptable. David called 3 days later. He spoke in a low voice. Dad says you two talked. We did. I apologize, Mom. Things became unmanageable. I've agreed to meet the financial counselor with Mel. I'm glad to hear that. We would also like you to join us for Christmas. There are no conditions. I felt a wave of relief. I'd like that very much. There's one more thing. He hesitated. Tyler has inquired about you. This weekend, is there any chance you could take him to the dinosaur exhibit? Only the two of you. Of course, I said with tears in my eyes. I'd love nothing more. I realized as I hung up that our issues would not be resolved by magic. There would be challenging talks to have, limits to uphold, and trust to restore. For now, though, it was sufficient to know that I would see my grandchild once more. Love sometimes entails persevering through heartbreak. Unexpectedly, there are instances when a family requires that very thing to heal. For more family tragedies, please press the notification bell and subscribe if my tale of confronting my daughter-in-law moved you. If you want to hear what transpired when Tyler and I eventually visited the dinosaur exhibit, like this video. In the comments section below, share your personal tales of establishing boundaries. I go through each one and reply to as many as I can.